Hi there, Chris, Chap and Cat Motolegends. Today I'm going to talk about how much you need to spend, how much you should spend on motorcycle gear. The question, how much should I spend on motorcycle clothing, how much do I need to spend on motorcycle clothing, comes up a lot on the internet. It's a perfectly reasonable question, especially if you're new to biking. Problem is there aren't many places you can go to get a sensible answer. There are lots of people, of course, on the internet who will give you the benefit of their lack of knowledge, but few really know what they're on about. Problem is, those who do know what they're on about will often have an agenda. In other words, they sell stuff. Now, we here, Motolegends, we sell stuff too, but we see things a little bit differently. This company is owned by Sarah and myself. We've been biking for about 30 years. And when we first got into biking, nobody helped us at all. We bought all of the wrong gear. We didn't know what the gear did. We didn't know what we were doing. And so when we got into this business, we decided that we would make it a bit of a mission of ours to educate people as to how gear worked and what gear worked in certain circumstances and what gear you needed for your kind of riding. As a company, it has to be said that we are a little bit towards the higher end of the market. The gear we sell tends to be a little bit more expensive, but nonetheless we like the idea of helping people who are starting out biking. These people may not buy from us initially, but who knows, perhaps one day they will. So that's the preamble. Let's start to get into it because the question is an interesting one. But unfortunately, I don't think that today I'm going to be able to give you a totally satisfactory answer to the question. And I might liken it to another question. How much should I spend on a car? Now, let's say you're someone who's facing a 50-mile commute, 25 miles either way, into work. How much should you spend on a car to do that? Well, some people might feel that spending £1 or £2 is fine. That car's probably going to be very reliable. It's going to get them into work, out of work. It will get them from A to B, no problem. Someone else might think, well, I'm not happy with that. I want to spend 30 grand. It's going to be a little bit more comfortable. Other people might want to spend 50, 60, 70, 80, even 100 grand. Yet they all do exactly the same job. You get in them in the morning, go to work, you come back, same job. The conclusion, therefore, has to be that there is no definitive answer to the question, how much should I spend on a car? Same with motorcycle clothing. How much should I spend on motorcycle clothing? We can't tell you that. But what we can tell you is how little you can spend. We can tell you how much you can spend. We can also try to explain that when you spend a little bit more, what you get for that extra little bit of cash. So if the first question is, how much do I need to spend on motorcycle gear? The answer is very simple, and that answer is not a lot. Legally, the only item that you need to wear on a motorcycle, if you're going to ride a motorcycle, is an ECE accredited helmet. ECE is a safety standard. It means the helmet's been tested to make sure it absorbs energy and protects you to a certain level. You can go down to your nearest Lidl and you can buy a helmet, something like this, for £25. And I do sometimes see motorcycle dealers, kosher motorcycle dealers, selling helmets at this price when they've got a sale on. If £25 is too much, you can go on eBay and buy one there. Personally, I wouldn't do that because once a helmet is on eBay, you just don't know what's happened to it. So I think you're best off with a new helmet. But my point is this, you don't need to spend a lot. £25, you've got yourself a helmet, you're good to go. Obviously, you're going to want a pair of pants, a pair of jeans, perhaps some sturdy boots, some gloves, a coat to keep you warm. Technically, that's all you need to ride a motorbike. Now, we here at Motolegends, we might well feel that that's not going to give you a lot of protection if things go wrong and you come off the bike, nor is it going to give you a great deal of comfort because when it's wet and cold, riding a bike can be pretty miserable. But let's say you're someone who, you've got a 50cc scooter, you've got a mile commute in and out of work every day, and for that kind of ride, just a helmet and your normal gear, that might well be adequate. After all, there are many people still riding large capacity bikes with not a lot more than that. So really, that's all you need, and it's not for us, I've got to say, to sit in judgment. So we've discussed how little you need to spend on a motorcycle helmet, in other words, not a lot. Let's raise the bar a little. Let's say you're someone who's just passed your test, you're going to get yourself a new bike, presumably something fairly modest to begin with. You want something that you can go out at weekends, ride up into the hills. You're contemplating perhaps a shortish commute, a 50-minute commute into work. You want proper bike gear, but you don't want to break the bank because you don't know whether you're going to be into this in the long term. How much do you need to spend? How much should you spend? We've already discussed the £25 helmet. We've discussed it, but it's not the route that we would go down, and that's because it's the helmet that's going to come between you and the road when you have an accident. Now, the main role of a helmet is to absorb impact. So when you hit this hard on the road, inside this shell, there's a thickness of expanded polystyrene, and that absorbs energy. And what that is trying to do is to slow the speed with which the brain is going to cross the skull. So you hit the road here, that energy sends the brain across the skull, hits the other side and bounces back. It's when it bounces back that can cause bruising, and that bruising can cause brain damage. What you need to understand is brain damage cannot be repaired. You can sometimes learn to live with it, but it's basically with you for life. And that's the awful truth of motorcycling. It is very dangerous. And some people don't realise that, or don't realise just how important a helmet is. They've got some nebulous concept of it's there to protect my head, it's to stop headaches and so on, but actually the helmet is vitally, vitally important. Now, you might say, technically, all helmets are 2205, so what's the point in spending £500 on a helmet when you can get one tested to the same standard that is just £25? And the answer is they're not all the same. So lots of the cheaper helmets made in China, they meet the test to begin with, then they're never tested again, and no one really knows whether they're still meeting the standard. The Italian magazine a couple of years ago ran a test. They went into shops, bought a load of helmets. A frightening number no longer met the 2205 test. Here at Motolegends, we actually find it hard to recommend to our customers helmets that we wouldn't ride in. Now, we get nervous about helmets that are below £200. They do a job, they technically meet 2205, but they're not the kind of helmets that we'd want to be riding in if we had an accident. I think once you get up to the next category, between £200 and £300, that's a reasonable amount to spend, and there are going to be a number of helmets within that category that are perfectly safe to wear. But in our personal view, you need to be spending something in the region of £300 to get yourself a properly protective helmet. This is the kind of helmet that we would wear. And we take the position that if you're someone who thinks that £300 is too much to spend to prevent brain damage, then there's a question really of whether motorcycling is for you, because motorcycling is dangerous, motorcycles are dangerous, and accidents do, I'm afraid, happen. But the rest of this outfit I think is potentially a little bit less contentious. All proper motorcycling gear will be CE approved, so will meet a certain safety standard. Any item of clothing you buy that purports to offer protection to a motorcyclist has to be CE approved, and there'll be a label inside the garment that attests to that. First thing I think you've got to do is decide what kind of biker you want to be, and therefore that will dictate the kind of gear you need. If you really get into biking over time and it becomes a serious thing for you, becomes your hobby, then inevitably you're going to want more than one outfit. But initially you might have to decide, are you going to be a fair weather rider, in which case all you're going to need is a pair of jeans, a jacket, and so on, or are you going to want gear that is going to allow you to ride when it's cold and wet and so on? Let's look at the cool route first, as it were. You're going to need a pair of jeans, cargo pants, or chinos. They're going to come with knee armour as standard. They have to. If they're CE approved, they will have knee armour. They won't, at this price point, because we're still talking about an entry-level point, they probably won't have hip armour. I personally think hip armour is incredibly important. When you come off a bike, you don't always hit your knee. I've never hit my knee, but I've always landed on my hip. So I think paying a little bit extra for hip armour is important. You're going to want this jean, whatever it is, cargo pant, chino. It's probably going to be lined with Kevlar or something like Kevlar, another aramid fibre, because it's that fibre inside the material that gives you impact, abrasion and tear resistance. You're going to budget, I think, at least £100. Leather jacket, I think you're in for something £150 to £200. That jacket's going to come as standard with shoulder armour and elbow armour. Again, you might want to put a back protector in. I think that's a sensible thing to have. You might have to fork out a little bit extra for that. Cool looking pair of gloves, as little as £50. Boots, £50 to £100. That's going to give you a cool outfit, and we're talking maybe a little bit over £400 therefore, plus the cost of the helmet. Now, you can always find cheaper, but we think that spending too little can be a false economy, the benefits of which perhaps you can explain to the nurse at A&E. If we're taking a more technical route, then I think you're going to have to spend, even at this entry level, you're going to have to spend a little bit more, because we're talking about something that's going to have a waterproof membrane. And a waterproof membrane, that adds cost as a membrane anyway, but it's quite difficult to sew into a garment. It requires taping. It's a lot of work. So technical gear tends to be a little bit more expensive than cool gear. But if we're talking about an entry-level jacket, I think you're somewhere in the region of £200, maybe £150 for a pair of pants. Same thing applies in terms of the armour. A jacket at this entry point is not going to probably come with a back protector. The pants are not going to have hip protectors, so you may have to add a few more quid in for those. £75 is going to buy you a pretty decent pair of waterproof gloves, and then a pair of boots, preferably a taller pair of boots because they're going to keep you drier, because the rain's going to find it hard to come up the trousers and get into the feet, as it were. You're going to be in for, say, £100 for a pair of boots. So we are in the realm of about £500 plus the cost of the helmet. Again, I think it is not wise to spend too little. We're looking for clothing, in this instance, that's going to keep you warm when it's cold, that's going to keep you dry when it's wet. And what I can tell you is that motorcycling, fun as it is, I love motorcycling, it can be the most miserable thing you've ever done. When it's cold, when it's 5 degrees out, when it's raining, it is absolutely horrid. So you want to spend as much as you can afford to make sure that when you're on the bike, you're riding comfortably, you don't feel too miserable, because I have to tell you again, if you're feeling miserable, if you can't concentrate on the road when you're riding, you're not going to be riding properly, you're going to be a danger to yourself and other road users. Now, these outfits that we're talking here, what I'm calling the entry-level outfit, they're probably, again, not the kind of outfits that you're going to get from Motolegends. We have some gear that crosses into this territory, but it's probably not, in truth, Motolegends territory. Let's raise the bar a little, let's move up to the next level. We're still, of course, very much in piece of string territory, because nobody can tell you how much you have to spend or need to spend or want to spend. We're going to be talking about gear here that is not at the very top end of the market, but gear that is up to the job for pretty much any motorcyclist, however many miles you do. So I'm talking about the motorcyclists who might have a daily commute of, say, up to 45 minutes each way, somebody who wants to go touring in Europe, somebody who wants really nice gear for going out at weekends in. Let's talk about that latter territory first, because in some ways it's a little bit easier. We're pushing the budget up a little bit. We're entering what we would call the mid-market area. For the kind of money that we're going to be talking about, you're going to get a better quality, nicer to wear, potentially more protective jean. You're going to get a jacket made of nicer, softer leather. You might be in for a waxed cotton jacket, higher quality gloves, more robust boots. In terms of the jeans that we spoke about in the budget area, in the entry level, they were going to be lined with Kevlar. That's what they're going to get their protection from. But potentially, at this level, we're moving into what we call a single layer jean. Now, single layer jeans derive their strength from the fact that the cotton is wound around a super strong fibre, so you don't have that big, heavy, cumbersome, sweaty Kevlar lining. They are lovely to wear. They wear just like a pair of Levi's, and some of them are incredibly strong. So you're going to be spending somewhere in the region of 200, maybe up to 250 for a pair of jeans in this category. This is a jean from a company called PMJ. It's a beautiful jean. It actually rates AAA on the safety rating, so it doesn't get more protective than this, but they're just much nicer to wear. Going to be talking about a better quality leather jacket, nicer leather, so I think we're in the realms of something like this. Lots of jackets at this price point. This one is from Halvarsons. It's about £350, a little bit less than £350, but for this kind of money, you're buying yourself a leather jacket that you're going to be more than happy to be seen in. Wax cotton's an option. In fact, I don't think we have a wax cotton offering at this point in the market. We are fans of Belstaff. That's the only wax cotton we sell, but if you can't afford the Belstaff option, then there are brands out there. One that I've heard of a lot is called Merlin, so I'm sure you'll find yourself a less expensive wax cotton jacket from then. You will be in for a good quality pair of gloves, so something like these. £100 is going to buy yourself, you'll buy yourself a very nice pair of summer cool looking gloves, and a short boot. Someone like the TCX, these are going to set you back anywhere between £150, maximum £200. We're also talking about moving to a better quality helmet. And again, we are not fans of cutting corners when it comes to helmets. And in this cool outfit, you're going to want a cool looking helmet, and I have to say we are not fans of your average hipster helmet, because too many of them follow form over function. They look fabulous, they've got lovely round shells, they've got great colour schemes, nice interiors, but they tend not to be from the top drawer in terms of safety. They don't have venting, they don't come with pinlock visors, they don't have seals around the visors, they let rain in, they're horribly noisy and so on. The best cool helmets on the market, bar none, come from Shui and Arai. There's a helmet called the Shui Glamster, and there's one from Arai called the Rapide. Now, the least expensive option here, so it's not inexpensive, but if you went for a plain coloured Glamster, you're going to be in for something like £400. So all in all with this outfit, we're talking about somewhere between £1,000 and maybe £1,400, £1,500. You could spend more, but you're not necessarily, and this is the point at this in this sector, you're not necessarily going to get any more when you spend more. You are not going to get anything that's more protective. You might get something that's a little bit more comfortable, but really for this budget, you're going to get yourself an outfit that's as good as anything. If you want to spend more, so be it, but you're in that territory where you're starting to indulge yourself. So now let's talk about a technical outfit at this, what we are calling mid-market level. In this category, when we are talking technical suits, we're talking textile suits, there are a number of options, and the option that you want that's right for you may well depend on the kind of riding that you want to do, whether you want to go touring in hot places or not. You're going to have to do a little bit of research. I can't go into all of this now, but we are talking potentially about a suit with a removable membrane. We're talking about a suit with a traditional, what we call a drop liner, or we could be into the slightly lower end of what we call laminated suits. Laminated suits potentially have some benefits in terms of waterproofing, although they're not a benefit to everyone, but you have a choice: removable membrane, drop liner membrane, or laminated membrane. But the bottom line is this, that for say 800, 900, £1,000, you get yourself a darned good zip together suit. You're going to want, in addition to that, a tall commuting boot, because in this kind of outfit it's all about staying dry. You don't want a short boot, you want a tall boot. So something like this, you're going to be in for £250, maybe £300. As a glove, you're going to want a waterproof glove. You're going to be into potentially a Gore-Tex glove. So a proper waterproof glove at this level is going to set you back, I imagine, somewhere around £150. When it comes to helmets, it's the same old story. We will not here brook a compromise. And at this level, you're going to want a helmet that does pretty much everything. So we have in mind something like the Neotech 2 or the GT Air 2. You're going to get a drop-down sun visor. You're going to get the option for comms. Importantly, we like here to have the facility to change the cheek pads and the headliners to get a perfect fit. Now, Shoeis are our favourite helmets, but there are lots of choices out there. There's some helmets from Arai, there's some helmets from Shoei, but we are talking about a helmet that's going to be in and around the region of £500. The bottom line is that this outfit that we're talking about is going to be up to any job, whatever that job is. And the cost we're talking about is somewhere between, we estimate, £1,500 and £1,750. We have clients who commute from Guildford or even south of Guildford into the city every day, into town and back. And that's a pretty arduous regime, a pretty arduous schedule, but they have outfits that fall within this budget. So this outfit is going to be as good as anyone needs. You do not need to spend any more than this kind of money on a technical outfit. Nobody does. Whether you want to spend more, of course, that's up to you. So now let's talk about gear at the top level. This is more about not how much you need to spend, but how much you could spend if you wanted to. And what you need to understand is that gear in this category, with gear in this category, the concept of value for money falls completely by the wayside. When we are comparing this kind of gear to the gear that we were talking about a minute ago, you could spend 50% more, but you won't get 50% more, certainly in terms of functionality. You might get 10% more, you might get 20% more. But I don't think that for most people there should be much of a surprise here. A £10,000 watch doesn't tell time any better than a £500 watch. In fact, at times, exactly the contrary. A £100,000 car is not twice the car that a £50,000 car is. A £3,000 bicycle is no faster than a £500 bicycle, as I, much to my embarrassment, have often discovered. When you spend more at this level, neither do you get necessarily greater protection. Now, I'd say this, or I mention this, because a lot of people think that that is what you're paying for. It's not. Making more protective gear is actually relatively simple, and it's not necessarily that expensive for the manufacturer. You just buy, at times, less sophisticated, but heavier, thicker, stronger materials. But the result of that is you often end up with gear that's not particularly nice to wear, and therefore our view is that when you spend more, what you're really getting, what you should expect, is gear that is nicer to wear. And that's important, because when you're riding the bike, if you're a comfortable rider, you're a rider who can concentrate on the road and what's going on around you. It's a concept that we talk about a lot here. It's a concept known as passive safety, and we hold it very dear here at Motolegends. So let's talk first about, in this top end category, let's talk first about cool gear. Now, for between £300 and £400, you can buy yourself the very best, nicest single layer jeans on the market. And we have in mind, in particular, these jeans from Roka. They're the Roka Tech jeans. They are a single layer jean. They are 20% stronger than leather. You're never going to need anything as strong as these jeans or as strong as leather, but they are super comfy to wear. They've got stretch in. They come with the super thin D3O Ghost Armour. They are just lovely jeans, and you can get yourself a pair of those for, as I've said, between £300 and £400. When it comes to a jacket, you could, if you were so minded. We've seen jackets out there for £1,000 and more. And if that's what you want to do, knock yourself out. But we think that's a little bit of a waste of money, because in our view, for £600, you can buy yourself the very best leather jacket on the market in terms of style and functionality. You can also, you're going to be into Belstaff territory to get yourself as nice a wax cotton jacket as you would want. In terms of boots, you could spend between £300 and £350. What we would have in mind, again, this is one of our favourite boots. It's one of the best boots on the market, we think. It's made by Roker, the Swiss company. It's a Goodyear welted boot. It's going to last forever. It's a beautiful boot, but between £300 and £350. In terms of gloves, this is a waterproof glove from Rucker, £150. If you wanted a non-waterproof glove, you could probably get away with spending a little bit less than this. Now, we've spoken at length about helmets and how we do not recommend cutting the budget too much, but by the same token, we do not advocate spending too much. And so in this category, we would also be recommending the helmet that we recommended in, or the helmets we recommended in the last category. That is either the Shoei Glampster or the Arai Rapide. They are fabulous helmets, and even if you went for the most expensive helmet in the most expensive colourway, you'd be in for a little bit over £500. Now, there are out there helmets, cool helmets that are much more expensive, but frankly we think you would just be wasting your money, because those helmets are inferior to the Shoei and the Arai in just about every respect. You're not going to get venting, you're not going to get a pin lock visor, some of them don't have a rubber seal, you can't change the interiors, they are not going to be tested to the same level as the Arai and the Shoei. But if hipster coolness is your guiding principle, then go for it, it's your money. But the bottom line is that in our book, £2,000 buys you just about the best outfit, the coolest outfit that you could get. Of course, as ever, you could spend more, but when you do, you're risking becoming that guy who's got all the gear and no idea. And frankly, let's admit it, nobody wants to be that guy. Anyway, let's go on and let's now talk about the technical outfit. What we're going to be doing now is talking about how much you can spend on a technical outfit in this high-end category. The kind of suit you want will depend to a degree on the kind of riding that you're going to be doing. But what I'm going to talk about here is a kind of outfit, or the kind of outfit that you could wear all year round, that you could tour in, that you could undertake an arduous daily commute in. If we go back to the cool gear, I postulated that you could overspend on cool gear. It's easy to indulge yourself, but I don't think that applies as much to technical wear, because to a greater degree you do get what you pay for. And at this higher level, if you want the very highest level of performance, I think you're going to want a suit that is made from what we know as a 3-layer laminated Gore-Tex material. Now, this is the best. You're never going to get wet. It's never going to wet out. But at this high end, you're also going to be talking about a suit that has a long warranty, because you're spending a lot of money. You want to know that you've got a decent guarantee. So I think we're going to be talking about brands like Rucker. This is the Rucker Nivala, one of their top suits. This suit here from the German brand Stadler, and the other brand that we could be talking about would be Klim, the American brand. And now Rucker has a 6-year warranty, Stadler has a 10-year warranty, Klim has a warranty that's technically indefinite, although I wouldn't get too excited by that. There are still conditions to do with wear and tear and so on. There are other brands that you could look at, but if you want gear that is totally reliable, that's never going to let you down, then I don't think you want to take a risk. And the 3 brands I've mentioned, Rucker, Klim and Stadler, are the most reliable brands on the market. A suit like this is always going to work. And I think you're going to be in for a cost of somewhere up to around £2,500. In terms of boots, the best boots on the market for this kind of outfit, so a touring commuting boot, they're going to come from Daytona, and you're going to be in for a cost of somewhere around £400, a little bit over £400. This is the Travel Style Pro. Boots just don't get better than Daytona. In terms of gloves, over time, and if you are doing lots of commuting, you're going to need more than one pair of gloves. You're going to need a winter glove, you're going to need a pure summer glove, but this is the glove that you would wear, or the kind of glove that you would wear most of the year. This is called a summer waterproof glove. This is a £250 glove from Rucker. It's about as good as it gets. In terms of a helmet, a little bit, as we were discussing with the cool category, we don't advocate spending too much. And when we were looking at the mid-market level and a helmet in the mid-market level, we were talking about something like a Neotech or a GTR 2. We would be talking about the same here. So in terms of a helmet, we don't think you could spend or should spend more than £600. Now, you can spend more on a helmet. You could go for something sexy and carbon, but carbon helmets are not better. They are not more protective. If you've got a race bike, they look better, they are lighter, but for a road rider, that lightness doesn't make any difference. But the truth is they're probably not going to be as comfortable, they're not going to be as quiet, they're certainly not going to be safer, and normally those carbon helmets come with or without some of the features that you're going to find in helmets like the GT 2 or the Neotech 2. So if you want the very best technical outfit that money can buy, you need to budget in total a sum we feel of around £4,000. So this video is and has been our response to the question that comes up on the internet a lot: how much should I spend on motorcycle gear? How much do I need to spend on motorcycle gear? And hopefully, as we've seen, there's no right answer. There's no right, there's no wrong. We're talking about this piece of string, albeit a fairly long piece of string, because we've seen how at one end you could spend as little as £25 to ride a motorcycle, or obviously you could spend considerably more. What you end up spending might well be dictated simply by what you can afford, or it might be dictated by simply what you want to spend. What we have to bear in mind is that our fathers and grandfathers often rode motorbikes because it was their only form of transport, and they rode their bikes 52 weeks a year to get in and out of work. They rode in every conceivable conditions, in blizzards, in howling gales. Motorcycle gear, as we know it today, simply didn't exist. When it rained, they wore a raincoat, they had a strong pair of wellies, pair of woolen mitts, and maybe a flat cap, but somehow they got by. Similarly, when we look at people like some of our heroes, people like Ted Simons and Elspeth Beard. Ted Simons went around the world in a pair of jeans and a leather flying jacket. Elspeth Beard, when she set off, she bought herself a second-hand helmet. If Prime Minister Macmillan were around and if he were a motorcycle rider, he would be telling us that we've never had it so good. And he would be right, because these days we have access to some simply amazing gear that makes riding a motorcycle easier, more comfortable and safer than it's ever been. Now, motorcycling can be a lot of fun, but it can also be miserable. You can get wetter and colder on a motorcycle than you ever thought possible. It also, has to be said, horribly dangerous. You don't need to spend a fortune on motorcycle gear, but it's a mistake in our view to spend too little. Some of the happiest moments in my life have been spent on a motorcycle, but also some of the most unpleasant. So you need to spend enough, but there's no point in spending too much. Unless, of course, you're spending it at Motolegends. So we've looked at a lot of different types of gear today. You'll find some of it on the website, and if you want to visit the website, motolegends.com, you'll find obviously some of the gear there. When you buy from us, we try to make the process simple, straightforward and risk-free as we possibly can. There's no delivery charge on any item or protected that you buy from us. Returns are totally free, and what's more, we give you a full 12 months in which to decide whether you do want to return something to us. We have the best price promise in the business. John Lewis was rightly famed for its never knowingly undersold price promise. We go one stage better. If you can find anyone selling anything that we sell at a price that is lower than ours, we will beat that competitor's price by a full 10%. There are a few terms and conditions attached to our what we call price beat, and if you do want to price beat us, I suggest that you visit the website and check out what those terms and conditions are. If in future you'd like to see bulletins from us about new products, if you go to the website, there's a piece of script at the top that says newsletter sign up. Click on there, within seconds you'll be in business. If, however, you prefer to get your information videographically, that is to say in this form, we'd be simply delighted if you want to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the button below. Now, this year is 2021. Last year we gave away to a YouTube subscriber a Mutt 125cc motorbike. We customised it a little bit, make it look like a Steve McQueen desert sled. This year, 2021, we are giving away, we've gone a little bit up market, we're giving away a 250cc Fantic Caballero Scrambler. We're going to be giving it away, however, not to a YouTube subscriber, but to somebody who follows us on Facebook, giving the bike away just before Christmas this year. So if you want to stand a chance of winning this fantastic bike, I suggest you go over to Facebook and obviously follow us. Finally, I'd like to make a play for our little shop here at Motolegends. We are based about a mile from the centre of Guildford, a mile from the railway station. And as I say, it's a small shop. It's got a small footprint, but it's attached to our warehouse where over 3 floors we have more than £2 million of stock here in the building. That technically makes us the second largest motorcycle apparel shop in the country. But we think we are far more than just the amount of merchandise we have here in the building. We're all about service, we're all about personal fitting. If you want to check us out, visit Trustpilot. We have the highest 5-star ranking in the business. When you come to see us, we'll serve you only the finest illy Italian coffee, or we'll serve you proper Yorkshire tea in a proper teapot. And who knows, if you're lucky, you might even get to sample one of our delicious motorcycle-shaped shortbread biscuits. Anyway, this has been Chris. I hope to talk to you again soon.